God, everyone's fucking streaming. Wilhelmina streaming? That can't be right. Motherfucking ads. Is there a fucking stream on YouTube going? Does she simul stream? Oh yeah, she's live and she's back, I guess, from some. She was out for 2 weeks, I guess. She's like the only one I would be interested in at the Face Connect. Whatchamacallit. Face Connect is going to be at Holiday Matsuri, and the only people that they're repping there are going to be their new Face Saga people. So I'll give a hello to Wilhelmina. Let me just pull up her. Oh God, zoom the fuck in. Her. I joked that, oh, why don't we, what happens if we took, Weiss from Ruby and made her a VTuber? And honestly, considering their personalities, they're very different people. Weiss has that absolute bitch energy, and Wilhelmina just has that absolute, I don't know how you call it, lovely bubbly energy. Since if we took Weiss from Ruby. Oh God, you can hear me. All right, let me turn my volume down slightly. Resolved that since I've had audio problems in the past, what I need to do is actually test myself at some point. So stand by 1 second. So I've resolved that, like, a rule of thumb is I will test my audio, put it on my iPad at half volume to make sure that I'm coming through clear on that. Also, I just realized that the background noise of the random World War I music sounds was not playing. So let me see if that's back up. All right, I think it's good now. So yeah, all right, man. Mari's streaming. Lumi's still fucking streaming. That's late for her. Just doing, I don't know. She's trying to do a fucking run to finish. What is it? Disco Elysium. Pippa's streaming. Emma is streaming with Cinna. Man, I do not follow any dudes on here. Fasali is streaming. Okay, one dude I follow is Asmongold. I don't know, like, here's the thing. When it comes to streamers, I'm watching mainly females. But there are plenty of male content creators that I consume, but it's mainly history political content. and not like dumb, you know, internet stuff content or anime adjacent stuff. But I was watching, what was it? Realize I should get back to my own fucking channel and set my tags. Oh yeah, so she's streaming. Synthler came out with his Metroid 4 Prime review. Man, live, what the fuck? What is this channel? Total War, Empire of the American, Fight for Freedom. Happy Friday, Funny Fish Time. What the fuck? Where the fuck is Arch? Because I haven't finished it yet, but I've been watching his video on... Oh my god. Oh yeah. Humanity did nothing wrong. The cultural impact of Avatar. So, one thing he's been harping on is that the tree, or the planet, Awa, the interconnectedness of like all living nature on the fucking planet. He is heavily implying that the tree has both brainwashes both the Na'vi as well as the scientists, so Jake Sully, Grace, and all the other guys who have interacted with the tree. And brainwashed them. And he does make a point out that you really don't think about it in the film, which is that the... Alright, let me get my thoughts together. That throughout the film, the point of Jake Sully's character and Grace's character was to get some negotiations going on with the Na'vi so they could start extracting, whatchamacallit, the unobtainium underneath the tree. Because the humans want that. And I guess it's implied that the tree's gotta go. Although, conceivably, depending on how deep down it goes, how deep down the unobtainium is, they may not have to get out of the tree. And it's not that hard to imagine that a spacefaring civilization like this couldn't figure out some way to drill down well beneath the tree and extract the unobtainium without killing the tree. And Jake and Grace's character, the female scientist from the first movie, portrayed by Sigourney Weaver, basically did nothing to actually do the negotiations, or at least that's what Arch is saying, and I haven't seen the film enough to corroborate that, but I specifically don't remember any point with them like actually saying, hey, this is what we can offer you to let us extract the minerals underneath the tree. Oh my god, I was about to lose balance on my chair. Where the fuck is the collar on this thing? I'm taking off my flannel. So that is interesting, that an afterthought you haven't really thought, you don't really think about here, which is that they didn't actually do what they were told to do, which was to negotiate. So I haven't finished it. I still got like, I don't know, 15 minutes left to go. Crowd. I saw this when logging into my dead account. Let's see here. I still have not changed my fucking tags on Twitch. My own account's chat into my channel in YouTube Studio is not running. Then again, the page needs to be, let's see if it would be refreshed. I'm live. I don't know why it's not seeing anything. I'm seeing it on YouTube on my iPad, so I don't know what the fuck is wrong with me with the YouTube Studio, why it's not seeing anything. What the fuck is he doing in here? Whatever. No, Kraut. Saw he has a video on Hungary. What is the latest video he's been doing? Hungary, a critique of cultural determinism. Cultures and difference between cultures and institutions. Can Poland nuclear weapons in the Trump-Putin era? Poland in Central Europe. The failure of Ostpolitik. Poland confronts Belarus and Russia. Man, he's been doing a lot. I have not kept up with him. Origins of Frenchism. Eastern Europe is not real. No, geographically it is. And Czechia, despite Prague being further west than Vienna, is Eastern Europe. What the fuck? Why the French police are so brutal? What is this? Yes, I understand which to proceed.
This video is about police brutality in France. You probably noticed yourself that the French police repeatedly makes the news for excessive police brutality. And in this video, I will try to explain to you why this is, and what institutional developments and historic events led to the French police being so notoriously violent. As you can...
I did not have that perception of them. I know that like 2 years ago, they had those massive riots because some Algerian immigrant, I don't think he was even naturalized French. What the fuck is Pippa streaming? I'm just looking at it now. It's something with Shrek in the background in the thumbnail. I don't. In any case, I know that like some Algerian immigrants or Algerian who may or may not have been a naturalized French citizen got killed in a pursuit from a crime he committed, and then all the Algerians or Muslims in general or immigrants in general rioted across France for a solid like week and a half.
You can probably imagine some of the things shown in this video are in French, such as an article in protest written by Émile Poisser. I could not find an English translation of this article, and it is useful to know at least a little bit of French when talking about France. Speakly is a language learning app made by two polyglots that...
Oh, nice fucking segue there. I'm also getting binaural audio for some reason.
In learning foreign languages, no matter if you just want to pick up the basics so you are able to read a few texts, or try to become fluent and converse with people. Speakly is a great means by which you can get into learning a language. Speakly is available on both web and mobile, and you can click the link below to get right into learning any languages.
I don't know why it's doing that.
Provide you with a daily 30-minute long language exercise, together with music recommendations to keep you refreshing your skills and make learning a routine. So it is intended.
It's coming on my left one for some reason.
A part of your life, which really is the best way of learning a language. You can start learning Speakly right away by using the link in the description. You will get a 7-day free trial, and if you sign up for a year, you'll get a 60% discount. Thank you very much to Speakly for sponsoring this video.
Why did I sit through that?
The French government has said it is considering all options.
What the fuck? The rest of the audio is fine. Now it's his audio that is mono in one ear for some reason.
A state of emergency after a third night of escalating violence and rioting in cities and towns across France.
So yeah, this must have been related to that. This even happened like in the early aughts under, what was his name? Chirac. French president who famously told Bush, like, you're not going to have any success in Iraq. I'm not submitting French troops to your coalition of the willing.
Hundreds of police were injured last night and more than 9.
I got this on like 1.25 speed. Maybe I can speed up a little bit more.
In our day and age, when we think of police brutality, the first thing that comes to most of our minds is the United States. We Europeans like to point our...
Yeah, it's pretty brutal because we have a rather uppity population that refuses to negotiate with police. Even that being said, most police interactions don't result in in confrontation. That is like, it's only 10% that go like absolutely viral and make it onto police activity.
I think it's other like when this topic comes up. But if we're honest, that is really dishonest. The Athens police department was for decades notorious for its corruption and abuse of power. For a long time, the Greek police was considered to be the worst in Europe. But there's one European country in particular that stands out in this conversation. As much as we Europeans like to tell ourselves that we have better functioning and more humane police services than the Americans, there is one country whose police record rips that comforting but dishonest illusion to shreds.
The modern French police, built by a Frenchman who had worked with the Nazis during the Second World War. Okay, maybe that explains it. So, again, he's going into the whole institutionalism thing. Maybe you need to examine the character of the French police. Like, what does it select for? What does it hire? And also, who does the French police have to fucking interact with on a day-to-day basis that may induce them to be ever so more brutal? Also, maybe the lack of proliferation of firearms means that you don't have shootouts Police interactions usually don't end up in shootouts. It ends up in brawls, and then the police are trained to be extra physically violent in that. I don't know how much I want to go for
The French
this.
police constantly and consistently makes headlines for its notorious police brutality, the brutal methods with which it disperses crowds, excesses in violence, killings, and racist abuses of power, mostly focused in and around the police department of Paris. Why?
Oh, so another one of the cities that's overrun with non-French people. Yes, I'm implying that having significantly amount of, let's say, deleterious foreigner population in a city leads to the police having to be far more brutal. I would have to ask the question that if you go to more idyllic French towns where it's completely homogeneously white French, are the police that bad?
To understand why, we have to go back to the 1940s. After the French defeat of 1940, France was divided up into two zones, one occupied by the Germans, the other under the governance of the Vichy regime of Marshal Pétain. This is one of the most painful chapters of French history. The Germans plundered France, billions in goods were extracted, and the occupation regime was infamous for its brutality. And one of the most painful segments of this chapter is what became known as collaboration, a core fact about the Second World War and the...
I didn't even hear that. I gotta need to slow it down slightly.
Nazi terror over Europe is that the majority of the crimes committed by the Nazis would have never been possible were it not for the cooperation of the institutions, structures, and peoples of the places the Nazis occupied. It was the interior ministry,
No man rules alone.
and in particular the police forces of occupied countries on which the Nazis mainly relied for the enforcement of their occupation order, but also for the organization of their crimes. The Nazi operations of rounding up, deporting, and massacring Jews were called Polizeiaktionen for a reason. From Norway to France to Greece, the Jews who were deported were rounded up by local police who collaborated with the Nazi occupiers. The police in Nazi Germany was under the authority of the Sicherheitsdienst, SD, which was a branch of the SS. And what many do not know, or often forget, is that the SS Einsatzkommandos, which carried out the mass murders of Jews in Poland, Lithuania, Belarus, and Ukraine, consisted almost entirely of German police officers. One has to imagine that regular German street cops...
That's interesting. So they're mostly taken from police? What does that imply? That police... Maybe there's something about being police that having to deal interpersonally with the scum of your society degrades your humanity a little bit. Whereas like if you're a soldier, you there's sort of maybe a little bit of sense of honor in what you're doing when you're fighting with somebody. And it's more, there's no build up. There's no like, stop, show me your ID, show me your ID, stop complying. Like the constant like back and forth that police officers have to do with people, or seeing the depravity of what they commit. Like, oh, I found a murder, random murder in our town that doesn't need to happen. Oh, you raped a woman, yada yada, stuff like that. Whereas it's a soldier, you're just meeting the enemy person across the field, shooting at them, overrunning them. Maybe you have to get up close in combat, but he was just another guy. Yes, he's the enemy, and you will fight with him with all your heart and soul. But you don't really think of him as a bad person. Maybe as a police officer. Maybe there's something about being a police officer that slowly makes you misanthropic and willing to be far more brutal to your fellow humans because you keep on seeing the worst in them. That is your job, to interact with them on the day-to-day basis and see the worst that humanity has to offer.
Received their orders to conduct a so-called Polizeiaktion on the Eastern Front. They were armed and shipped out just behind the front lines of the Eastern Front, where they spent months shooting Jews at death pits, after which they returned to police duty in German cities as if nothing had ever happened. After the Second World War, this aspect of the Nazi terror and rule was largely forgotten. There were
Interesting, I've not heard about this.
police officers working the streets of West and East Germany who had spent the war murdering thousands of men, women, and children over death pits, and now just melted back into society as supposedly respectable professionals in service of society. By the 1960s, the German reckoning with history began, and we began seeing a gradual change. It is ironically in the countries that Germany had occupied, where these legacies in occupation through collaboration were often left to fester to their worst extent.
Okay, so I guess like in Germany they want to have a reckoning with themselves because there's more onus need to be put on that for Germany in particular. But other countries want to like sweep it under the rug, like no, we were totally oppressed and any like brutality was not the result of us collaborating in any way whatsoever.
Maurice Papon was a French civil servant, who during the Nazi occupation was appointed the general inspector on the Jewish question over the territories occupied by the Germans in France. In this position, Maurice Papon became the boss of the French police in Nazi-occupied France. He restructured and reorganized the French police, heavily centralized in Paris, as an organization that worked for the Nazi occupation. No longer in service of France, the police of France became an institution at war with France as part of an occupation of France. Instead of investigating crimes in France, the French police became an instrument of committing crimes against the French. Instead of serving the French, the police now helped arrest and torture members of the Resistance. They helped round up French civilians to be deported for forced labor in Germany. They helped...
Yes, they're occupying, I guess, again, here's the institutionalisms. Oh, the police is turned into an institution to oppress its people. Yes, because it's operating now. It's been hijacked by a foreign power at this point. Just like, oh no, the institution is not doing what it's supposed to do. No shit, it's been taken over for hostile purposes. And he's being so lamentable about it, and me in my, more practical mannered mind, not endowed with the sacredness of institutions, just yeah, that's how it is. They're hijacking an institution and the people it commands in order to do its designs. Again, you can see the institutionalism mindset of Kraut here.
Establish a Gestapo system of organized mass torture, and they assisted the Germans in acts of brutal revenge as punishment for acts of resistance, in which notoriously 10 French citizens were shot by the Germans for every German killed in France by the Resistance. Maurice Papon was also in charge of rounding up the Jews of France for the Nazi final solution. He was, however, incapable of rounding up most French Jews. French citizenship made their deportation difficult. However, non-French Jews fell into a legal gray area, especially Jews.
Non-French Jews? I mean, how are you... You're telling me that, in the midst of this, they can't figure out who's Jew and not, and just say, well, that law is void now because the occupiers tell us so. They put up resistance on that front?
From countries that the Nazis had occupied. Those became stateless and would become the primary victim of Maurice Papon, the police he commanded, and the Nazi authorities to who he handed them over. Maurice Papon personally organized, ordered, carried out, and oversaw the deportation of 76,000 Jews from France to Auschwitz, of which only 2,500 survived. The main logistical center...
Hold up.
Maurice Papon personally organized, ordered, carried out, and oversaw the deportation of 76,000 Jews
76,000 Jews.
France to Auschwitz, of which only 2,500.
Oh, 2,000. I thought I heard 200,000. All right. Well, yeah. All right. That's a magnitude. That is a magnitude drop.
The main logistical center that Maurice Papon built to organize all of this was the infamous transit camp at Drancy. After the war, Maurice Papon forged a document crediting himself as a member of the French Resistance. He successfully managed to hide his involvement in everything that he had organized and commanded, and disguised himself as a meek little French bureaucrat who worked under difficult circumstances while secretly, supposedly working for the Resistance. Charles de Gaulle commended
Sneak level 100.
the man
Or forgery level
who worked
100.
with honor under difficult circumstances, and made Maurice Papon the prefect of Corsica with the main job of suppressing Corsican separatism. After doing...
Okay. Man, you were really good at suppressing us? Well, I need you to suppress Corsica for us. How practical. How cynically practical.
that job successfully, he was made the chief of police in the French Protectorate of Morocco in 1954 and of French Algeria in 1956, with the task of establishing and maintaining order. In French Algeria, Maurice Papon oversaw the...
Wow, even more fucking practical. So let's put down Corsican separatism. We're also going to put down Algerian separatism too.
Of a state-run torture network in which the French authorities systematically tortured Algerians. What is striking is that Maurice Papon established in Algeria a system of state-managed mass torture that was almost the exact same as the Gestapo system that was built in Nazi-occupied France by Klaus Barbie. A system that Maurice Papon, one of the chief collaborators in Nazi-occupied France, was very familiar with and which he now copied in the service of French imperialism in Algeria. In 1958, when the Algerian independence movement, FLN, started being active in France, Charles de Gaulle appointed Maurice Papon as the chief of the Paris Police Department to restore order. This series of events, that began with the Nazi occupation of France in 1941, had a substantial impact on the French police and the security institutions of the French state. It meant that after the Second World War, Frenchmen who had worked with and for the Nazis and assisted in the crimes of the Nazis as part of the occupation of France remained in charge of, or at least in employment, with the post-war French state. And
okay, so the institution is shaped by the people that it contains within. Now, maybe that leaves an imprint on the institution, but again, we're getting down to the people affect the institution here.
and were put in charge of the security apparatus of the remaining French.
And I guess something going up the chain is that Papon and de Gaulle above him keep on, like, letting this go on. So, the humans shape the institution.
French colonies, most prominently in the police of mainland France, whose boss was one of the leading Nazi collaborators and commanded a police that consisted, by and large, of Nazi collaborators. Under Nazi rule, the French police had been transformed into an institution at war with France, and after that war, the French state failed to undo that transformation. Instead, it swept it under a rug. The police of France remained an institution at war with France, but far more crucially, at war with the stateless outliers who found themselves within a legal grey area because of the policies of the French Empire. During the Nazi occupation, those outliers in the grey area had been the Jews. Now, after the war, it was the Vietnamese, Cambodians, Senegalese, Congolese, Tunisians, Moroccans, but above all, the Algerians.
Alright. So it's probably just gonna go on more history of, like, how the French police are, like, again, I don't know, I probably should watch this towards the end, but I kind of don't want to spend more time on this. Alright, 26 minutes, I don't know.
Life in prison in 1999. He only served 3 years until being released on health for matters that were unquestionable in the decades before to be reopened and questioned again. People.
Alright, so Papon's getting his reckoning.
Became closer examined. Questions began being asked about Maurice Papon and what exactly he had done during the Nazi occupation. Robert Badinter became French Minister of Justice, a French Jew who had survived but whose father and many members of his extended family had been deported to Auschwitz and murdered. Maurice Papon's carefully crafted self-image of the reliable and honorable civil servant began to unravel. It was revealed that he had probably forged his membership in the Resistance, and gradually, the fact that he was the man who had organized, ordered, and carried out the deportations of Jews from France to Auschwitz came to light. At the age of 77, he was finally put on trial in 1997 and sentenced to life in
1997.
He only served 3 years until being released on health issues in 2002 and died in 2007. Maurice.
So he mostly got away with it. The arc of history is long, but it does not necessarily bend towards justice.
Papon was, however,
well, maybe, like, the ultimate justice, his reputation is now ruined. Is that Kraut here is going over his crimes
never
now.
held to account for the Paris massacre of 1961. Not one of those involved ever was. That event almost completely disappeared from the collection.
Okay, I guess I skipped over that part, but whatever.
But it ultimately refused to be forgotten. Here We Drown Algerians is a graffiti that an unknown student made in protest on the Pointe Saint-Michel bridge a week after the massacre in 1961. The bridge where the French police rounded up Algerians, broke their arms and legs, and threw them into the Seine to drown. The graffiti...
Jesus! You don't hear the fucking US doing that. When was the last time police straight up massacred people like
graffiti
that?
was cleaned away, but throughout the years, the picture and the graffiti came back, over and over again. The phrase became almost a sort of motto of remembrance, of raging against forgetting, and of protest against the crimes of the French state. As mentioned before, the 1980s were a time in France in which all certainties suddenly were open for questioning again. Back in 1961, on the 31st of October, the police officer Émile Portier, a veteran of the French Resistance, anonymously published the following protest letter directed toward the public, titled "A Group of Republican Police Officers Declare." It is a harrowing account of what happened that night on the 17th of October, of Algerians beaten in police custody until their organs burst, and having their fingers cut off by sadistic police officers while the police chief just watched, of how police officers systematically destroyed the documentation and IDs of Algerians before murdering them to destroy evidence of their existence, how police officers tied up Algerians in courtyards of police stations, doused them in gasoline, and then burnt them alive. Émile Portier's complaint.
Jesus Christ! When did U.S. police ever burned up somebody? Like, in America, we have the African American population, the black population, which throughout our history we have, you know, let's say oppressed, just to be upfront. Jim Crow laws. Like, let's not even like touch slavery. Like Jim Crow laws, police brutality, yada yada. When was the last? When can you find me a story of U.S. police officers in like some deep South state rounding up a bunch of black guys for some, I don't know, whatever crime, and then burning them alive? At worst, I'd imagine they get like into a shootout and shoot them dead.
Did not have the effect he intended. There was no public outcry. Instead, Maurice Papon launched a...
Maybe there was no public outcry because the rest of France doesn't mind the other, that being Algerians, being brutalized like that. Maybe it was just blatant tribalism, let them get away with that.
Internal police investigation to find and punish him. But Émile Portier's letter did play one important role. It was a record of what happened, testimony of what happened. Small as it may seem at the time, it would ensure that events would not be forgotten, and that a document of reference would continue to exist together with the memories. People remembered. In 1990, the police archives were finally opened to historians, and the events began to be pieced together. In 1991, the communist activist Jean-Luc
I'm fucking scratching my scalp right now through my hair. I actually booked a like proper hair salon. I'm plugging out $50 for this. But I've been like letting my hair grow out, so I'm gonna see if I can get a medium fade, but enough about that.
He published La Bataille de Paris and finally broke open a public conversation in France over what happened.
The brutality
he exaggerated
of
the number of
Paris.
Algerians who were murdered, but nonetheless, it allowed for an investigation and research to finally be conducted in earnest. 10 years later, in 2001, the city of Paris became the first institution of the French state to acknowledge what happened for the mayor of Paris, Bertrand Delaunay, who unveiled a memorial. But it is here, in this acknowledgement, that another big mistake is made in remembering. Neither the city, its memorial, or the Republic ever acknowledged a responsibility for what happened. Instead, the fingers were always pointed at Maurice Papon. Maurice Papon was and continues to be the man everyone points at as ultimately responsible. The structures that enabled his rise to power are infrequently discussed and mostly disguised.
What are the structures that led to his rise other than people up above him appointing him? What are the structures other than the rules of like how he gets appointed up to these positions? Again, you're trying to like say the institution that he crafted, but he was only allowed to craft the institution that way because other people above him kept on putting him in positions to do so.
If you ever go to Paris, you will notice that the memorial is no longer at the bridge. That is because it was continuously broken and vandalized. It is suspected, possibly even by members of the French police. A new
Possibly. Okay, that's fair.
memorial had to be constructed several feet away.
And if they keep on getting away with it, that probably means that they have the wherewithal to know when and where to do it. And how to get away with it.
Out of sight and therefore better protected. What France failed to do and so far continues to fail at doing is to acknowledge the institutional legacy that caused what happened that night in 1961. A failure to confront institutional legacies. Every time you see a headline of a brutal police killing in France, in which someone with a migrant background is brutally killed, every time you read headlines of French police acting in a completely over-the-top brutality against protesters or just ordinary football fans, or every time you read news headlines of French police officers and French police bosses tolerating neo-Nazi marches or having ties to neo-Nazis revealed, then you are seeing an echo of an institutional legacy. You are seeing the ghost of
Institutional legacy. Well, it sounds like you just need to fucking purge the people out. Like, what are the rules of this institution other than that's making it like this? Other than the people. Like, maybe he would imagine that, like, if we put in, like, special, like, an internal affairs agency to overlook this place. Like, I remember, what's his name? Administrative results. He said one of the main reason he did not, in his initial videos, why he wore the mask to protect his identity was to avoid internal affairs at his police department coming after him. He wasn't afraid of other people coming to his house, figure out who he was, and then trying to, like, attack him at his house. He was afraid that internal affairs at his police department was gonna see something in his video and hit him with it. Somehow. So internal affairs seems to be like sort of like the boogeyman of police here in the US. Does the French police not have their own internal affairs, or is it completely captured by like everyone? Either way, my point being, it seems that you just keep on like letting in these incredibly brutal people. Like, can we start psych testing? Let's start investigating who are the people who keep on doing this incredible like fucked up shit. And then let's actually psych test them to see what makes them tick, what makes them like this. See if we can find some commonalities and put that in a test ahead of time to screen them out, and then also kick out these other people who are being such brutal assholes. But here's the thing, can the Paris police function having that much of a purge? At that point, maybe you might want to have to like requisition people out of the public to make them police officers for like a fixed 5-year term until we can get like new crops in to fill up the ranks from the purges.
You're seeing the ghost of Vichy. You're seeing the ghost of Drancy. You're seeing the ghost of 1961. You're seeing the ghost of Maurice Papon. And
you're seeing the ghost of an institution that keeps on, who doesn't have any internal accountability checks, and also keeps on somehow enlisting people with a predisposition towards brutality.
Ghost of all those who worked for him in the name of the French state. But this does not just concern France. This is one of the main differences between police brutality in the United States and Europe. The extent of police brutality in European countries correlates with the Nazi occupation and the extent of a subsequent lacking denazification.
He's saying that like that's been like being studied. Like when you use correlation, that's a very specific term. Like yes, France was occupied by Germany and didn't have a proper internal reckoning with its collaborators. It's kind of swept under the rug out of national shame. And then I can see Greece's flag in the background here, so I'm guessing, that's kind of like what was behind the Athens police being so brutal.
I mentioned Greece at the beginning of this video. Greece used to be notorious for its brutal police. Some of you in the audience who are old enough may remember the brutal police murder of the Greek teenager Alexandros Geroropoulos in 2008 and the widespread riots that this murder caused in Greece. The majority of the Greek population was active in the resistance during the Nazi occupation. By some estimates, up to 2/3 of the Greek population were active in the resistance against the Nazis. But there were also Greek collaborators, and most of those were Greek police officers who the Nazis relied on to occupy and brutalize Greece. Most infamously, the police of Thessaloniki, who rounded up and deported the Jews of Salonika to Auschwitz. After the Nazi occupation of Greece ended, civil war broke out between monarchists and republicans. The British intervened to support the monarchists, who eventually won the civil war, and a far-right military dictatorship came to power in Greece with British support. In a cruel twist of historical irony, in a country that had largely resisted the Nazis, it was the people who had worked with the Nazis who ended up in charge of the state after the...
What was the phrase? They lost more in victory than they could have ever in defeat.
Nazi occupation.
Okay, I mean, like under Nazi occupation, that could have gotten worse, but, lost more in victory than they did in defeat.
These included the Greek policemen who had worked with the Nazis in the deportation of the Jews and the brutalization of the Greek public. And those Greek policemen who had collaborated with the Nazis consequently created the oppressive and violent police institutions that Greeks rioted against in 2008. Police brutality in Europe, unlike the United States, is more often than not a legacy of authoritarian regimes and states. It is in part a legacy of communism in the early 2000s.
And maybe because America has been such a libertarian society in a very loose sense, with heavy emphasis on civil liberties, constitutional rights, stuff like that, heavy legalization, and also, probably to a certain extent, we just didn't have that much crime, because we basically, throughout medieval times and into the early modern period, genocided criminals out of the population, especially in England. So, like, it wasn't until, like, the Irish started showing up that we started having real, like, problems with, criminal gangs. I don't know. Maybe you can find, like, pure Anglo criminal gangsters throughout, early America. But I guess to a certain escape, we didn't have this history of having to constantly oppress our, like, populations in our cities. As much across the US. So we never built up like this tenacity or willing to be brutal to our own people.
Thousands, 3 out of 10 German police officers were former Stasi, and it is notable how there was more police brutality in East Germany compared to West Germany. Police brutality in Europe is also a legacy of fascism. One only need look to Spain to see that. But the places in Europe where police brutality is the worst are those that were occupied by the Nazis, where the police then worked with the Nazis, where the police was turned into an institution on a war footing against its own people, and where little to nothing was done after the war to remove those people or change the institutions after the end of Nazi occupation. This is why the French police is so notoriously brutal and violent. French police brutality is a legacy institution of the Nazi occupation of Europe.
Legacy institution, because they didn't kick out the other people. They didn't kick out those people. You didn't change the people in the institution. And they allows their cultural norms to continue.
If France wishes to ever overcome its police brutality problem, it will have to confront the legacies of almost a century of historical policy failures in managing its police.
And what's that prescription like, hold up, let me hear it again.
Wishes to ever overcome its police brutality problem, it will have to confront the legacies of almost a century of historical policy failures in managing its police.
That is very open-ended and vague. Thank you for your solutions here. Like, oh, we must look into our history. Like, no. Have an internal affairs department and centralized. If France is far more centralized, so like having a rule that like the internal affairs department of any one particular city has to be staffed by people who come from a different city, so there's no like internal So it's not like you have a good old boy, not good old boys, but you have guys from the regular lay police who then become part of their internal affairs department and then know to, cover for their guys in the regular force. I wonder how even internal affairs even gets staffed here in the U.S. There's a lot of vague generalities, and he's just going through history here, and like he doesn't give any strict policy proposals here. Like in the U.S., I can immediately think of the term internal affairs in police departments, and he doesn't give that up. He doesn't give that like, oh. And maybe even it turns out that France has internal affairs departments in there. All right, fine. Let's use this as a way to segment over to fucking Twitter. And I'll open up fucking Grok to ask the question. Do French police departments... French, no, French. Oh, what the fuck? Why didn't it take? Why didn't that take? Yeah, do have internal affairs units, though the structure differs from decentralized systems like those in the United States due to France's two main national law enforcement agencies. The Police Nationale, national police primarily operating in urban areas, has the Inspection Générale de la Police Nationale, often nicknamed the Police des Polices, Police of the Police. Or Police des Polices. The IGPN serves in the internal affairs body responsible for investigating misconduct, conducting administrative and judicial inquiries into police officers' actions, performing audits and inspections of services, and ensuring compliance with ethics and regulations. It reports to the Director General of the National Police National Policing can be activated by Minister of the Interior, judicial authorities, or public complaints via online platform. Gendarme National, National Gendarme is a military force handling rural areas. It's a military force and certain specialized duties. It has its own separate internal oversight by the Inspection Générale de la Gendarmerie Nationale, which performs a similar role in investigating. These centralized national inspectorates handle internal investigations across their respective forces rather than individual departments having their own standalone units. This reflects France's highly centralized policing model under the Ministry of the Interior. Maybe this is one of the benefits of our our greatly decentralized means of governance here in the U.S. that, to a certain extent, maybe is too decentralized. Where's I going with this? Like, here's one thing. Like, we had a special election back in early November, or no, we had an off-year election where only like 5% of the entire Texas population even showed up to vote. We had like 17 amendments up there, and of course you have all your sheriffs and or maybe not even necessarily that sheriffs. I don't think my ballot even had a sheriff up for election this year. Maybe the midterms. We'll see what happens. And where was I going with this? Later that day after the election, one of my coworkers was complaining, like, why do I have to vote for sheriff? Because I guess she's not a foreigner or anything. She grew up in like Hawaii. So I guess the idea of like having a sheriff that is elected is very weird, but I haven't looked into it. Democrats don't even necessarily aren't even against that because, in counties that they control, it means that they can have a sheriff that like focuses on their priorities. So there's no like, if you're against like elected sheriffs out here in Texas, you're really on the outside. Like you're not somebody who's that is not like a thing that most people would even think about or even consider. Whereas France, like, how does the guy rise up to be like the local sheriff, the equivalent of a local sheriff throughout France? I imagine it's like some top-down appointment system. Same thing with district attorneys, who I think to a certain extent should be, maybe they can be elected, but the Attorney General of Texas should have heavy ability to like nix their ass and appoint replacement until the next election if they fail to do their duties. such as, you know, setting their own rules about, like, how much they were willing to, monetary values before they're willing to go out, prosecute theft from stores. So, but I don't really particularly hear anything these days about district attorneys or sheriffs getting their shit kicked in by the attorney general out here. I guess they mostly know what they need to do, do what they do to stay out of trouble. Independent school districts, that's another thing. I think like Dallas's independent school district was like put under like Texas Department of Education like control because it like failed so badly. All right. Let me just put this one last prompt here. And these IA equivalent have failed to lessen the brutality of the French police across its post-war history, across France's post-war history. All right, let's see like what this gets it up to. 58 results. No, this you and its counterpart, the gendarmerie, have not effectively reduced police brutality in France over the post-war period. Evidence of human rights organizations, academic analysis, and official statistics indicates persistent issues often true to the internal nature of these bodies, which fosters perceptions of impunity. Historical context of police brutality in France during the Algerian War with documented torture, summary executions, 1961 Paris massacre of Algerian protesters, ongoing issues in suburban areas and during protests, Yellow Vest movement, yada yada. Critics describe French policing as more confrontational and brutal compared to many European counterparts, with tactics prioritizing force over de-escalation. Lack of independence. Composed primarily of police officers and reporting to the Interior Ministry, they are accused of bias, routinely downplaying incidents of exonerating officers. Systemic disculpation during Yellow Vest protests involving rubber bullets. Low accountability. Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch have highlighted a climate of impunity with few prosecutions or sanctions despite complaints. Rising complaints about stable outcomes. IPG investigators peaked in 2019, but remained high. Use of force referrals find away were 2022 with police-related death injuries stable. Board IG play increased steadily, yet critics note minimal systemic change. Mike Zeckler beating in 2020, Nahel M shooting in 2023, and protests highlighting ongoing issues. International bodies like the Council of Europe and UN have reportedly urged reforms knowing disproportionate force. Okay. How do U.S. IA agent compare? But they differ significantly in structure and independence. France, police is highly centralized. U.S. is highly decentralized with 18,000 independent agencies, local, county, state, federal. Most larger departments have their own IA units to investigate misconduct internally. Many jurisdictions supplement this with civilian oversight bodies, e.g. review boards, independent auditors, or commissions in cities like Chicago, Los Angeles, and New York, which can investigate complaints, review IA findings, subpoena witnesses, or recommend discipline. Over 100 major cities have some form of civilian oversight through models vary widely in power and independence. Independence and criticisms. Lack of independence, staffed mostly by active or former officers appointed by and reporting to the Interior Ministry. NGOs, yada yada yada. Alright. IA units are similarly internally criticized for low sustain rates, often 10-20% of complaints upheld, and reluctance to discipline officers. However, civilian oversight procedure provides an external layer in many places, increasing transparency, IG public reports, subpoena power. Still, police unions, arbitrators, and chiefs often override recommendations, leading to mixed effectiveness. Federal DOJ pattern of practice investigations have exposed systemic failures in IA processes in various departments. All right, so maybe we're not holding our heads that high. Effectiveness in reducing brutality. Persistent issues with excessive force during protests and in minority communities, with critics arguing internal bodies fail to drive systemic change. Police-related deaths are lower, 20 to 40 annually, but disproportionate force and racial profiling remain concerns per international reports. High rates of police killing, or a country with guns, that kind of follows. 12,000 and 1,300 in 2024 per mapping police violence, often linked to armed encounters and decentralized training. Civilian oversight has led to some reforms, e.g. body cameras, policy changes post-George Floyd, but brutality persists with accountability varying by I'm gonna be honest, this is sounding, I'm not exactly buying this it's not answering the question, I would say. Higher rates of police killings, but yeah, we're a highly armed nation, so you're gonna have lots of these shootouts. Of course, people's perceptions are off because they'll often think like there's thousands of unarmed black men who get shot by police, where it's like it hovers like whether or not it's gonna, it's a coin flip each year whether or not that number is 1 digit or 2 digits, where somebody is, the report finds that, oh, the person was completely unarmed. Most of the time, if it is shooting, somebody was about to draw a fucking gun or started shooting first. Can you hear that? It's my influencer camera stand. But brutality persists. You say brutality persists, like, and also body cameras, one of the biggest self-own of the anti-police movement or the police accountability movement. Police use of force encounters have actually marginally increased since body cameras were mass implemented. Now that there's a camera running, the cops are usually far more secure in themselves to use that shoot when they feel they need to, because they've been recording their interaction all up to this point, so they can show this guy was constantly not listening to police orders, and then here's him drawing the fucking gun. So, but I don't know. Can you think of? All right, last question before I move on. Can you find me any incident in U.S. police history that even approaches the brutality of 1961 Paris massacre, where people were drowned off a bridge? There's no documented incident in U.S. police history that approaches the scale or specific brutality of the 1961 Paris massacre, where French police systematically beat, shot, and drowned dozens, likely hundreds, of peaceful Algerian protesters by throwing them, some alive and bound, into the Seine River from bridges and embankments during a single event. U.S. police brutality has a long and tragic history, including mass killings of protesters and minorities, often involving shootings, beatings, or fire. E.g., the Tulsa Race Massacre. I thought, Tulsa, it used to be the Tulsa Race Riot, then that got retconned. Where police deputized white mobs and even used airplanes to bomb. That is something that's, is questionable. Bombing black neighborhoods. Killing up to 300, and the 1968 Orangeburg Massacre, where state police shot and killed 3 black student protesters. All right, 3 students. And the 1985 MOVE bombing in Philadelphia, where police dropped explosives on home. I actually read a thread on that, and that just that was just insane because of how insanely intransigent the people in that house were being. Apparently they were constantly shooting out of the house. None involved deliberately throwing large numbers of people off bridges to drown them as method of execution. Searches for instances of police mass drowning protester suspects or throwing them off bridges yield only isolated modern cases, e.g. officers watching a single person drown without intervening, or accidental drownings during transport, but nothing on the scale of organized intentional mass drownings on bridges. Iconic bridge-related events like Bloody Sunday, 1965 Selma marches involved brutal beatings and tear gas on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, hospitalizing dozens, but no drownings or throwing into water. Myths like the Devil's Punch Bowl and Natchez post-Civil War deaths in refugee camps have been debunked as exaggerated or false regarding intentional mass killings by authorities, and it wasn't police-led bridge-related. Alright. I don't know. The big thing it brings up is the Tulsa Race Massacre, where there's a lot more to be debated about what happened there. Or to be brought up. Oh. I upgraded to Windows 11 by accidentally pressing spacebar on startup. You can do that? I'm just operating on Windows 11 at this point. I don't care. Oh god. My god, the fucking Franklin memes need to stop, please. God damn it, Pete Hegseth. Franklin runs out of food at Suiyang Garrison enduring a siege by Yan forces, but must secure decisive Tang strategic victory. And so they eat the peasants. Oh god, what is... Chinese history is wild. Oh my god, he's got his... I'm just noticing now he has his fucking tongue out and he's drooling. Why? Why? I should turn that into a fucking short. Alright, let's just go to Clash Report and check up on, like... Wow, I cannot get the order of the keys I type right. I still haven't changed my fucking tags. Let's see here. Ubisoft, which has now been bought out by who? Tencent? Right at this point. What kind of game? What category of game? Open world? Yeah, good enough. What happened? Apparently Trump said something about doing land strikes on Venezuela. Oh, here he goes.
We are knocking out drugs at levels that nobody's ever seen before. We knocked out 90...
Again, Trump with his, like, unverifiable or blatantly incorrect superlatives. That's just how he operates.
6% of the drugs coming in by water, and nobody can figure out who the 4%. I wouldn't want to be the 4% either, but 96% of the drugs coming in by water. Every one of those boats you see get shot down, you just saved 25,000 American lives. But we knocked out 96% of the drugs coming in by water, and now we're starting by land, and by land is a lot easier, and that's going to start happening. And we're not going to have people destroying our youth, destroying our families. Thinking about youth, every...
Okay, vague. I don't know, did stock markets roll with that? What the hell is this?
Very much. Let's see, what do I do with that strap?
There you go.
What the hell even that was for? Thailand, Cambodia is in good shape. No, it's not. Thailand seems to be, like, on the move here. The Russians bragged for a long time that they have captured our Kupiansk. For a long time now, Russians have been telling the whole world that Ukraine is supposedly weak. They are lying. Well, they've taken fucking Prokrovsk and completely surrounded Mirnorad. Those guys in there are fucked unless you can get a breakout for them. The moment a Russian kamikaze drone strike on a Turkish cargo ship at Ukraine's Odessa port. Wow, somebody actually filmed it all the way up to the point. It's a fucking Shahed drone.
Aha gidiyor bak, drone'a bak, patlayacak bak. Patlayacak bak. Nereye gitti? O tarafa gitti.
Where is it? Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Sorry. Alright. So it hits over here.
Aha patladı. Gemiyi patladı.
Well, fuck.
Ha.
So it's a Turkish cargo ship. So is Turkey gonna get pissy about that? Netanyahu quietly moves to block F-35s for Turkey. Netanyahu is quietly seeking to block U.S. sales of F-35 jets to Saudi Arabia and more urgently Turkey. Okay, Clash Report. I know where your priorities are. While avoiding any public confrontation with Trump, Netanyahu appears more concerned about provoking Trump than about the strategic risks of the sales, particularly given Trump's openness towards Ankara. At December 1st meeting with Lockheed Martin executives, Netanyahu explored ways to preserve Israel's qualitative military edge should regional rivals acquire the advanced aircraft. Israeli officials are especially alarmed by Turkey, pointing to President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's past threats against Israel and fears that the F-35 stealth capabilities could undermine Israel's early warning defenses. Unlike in past disputes with U.S. administrations, Netanyahu is relying on quiet lobbying of Trump's inner circle, recognizing that open opposition is not an option. So even Netanyahu is feeling cowed by Trump. So I'm happy about that Netanyahu is afraid of like pissing off Trump now. What is this? Trump. All right, let's just hear him out.
You talked about land strikes happening soon. Is there anything at this point that can prevent that? And is the objective, if you make that decision?
Well, I don't want to say that, but it's not only land strikes on Venezuela. It's land strikes on horrible people that are bringing in drugs and killing our people. You know, if we were in a war and we lost 300,000 people in a year, because that's what the real number is. It's not 100. You know, you keep hearing 100. And it's a lot worse than that because the families are devastated when they lose their child.
So going back to that.
If we were in a war that are bringing in drugs and killing strikes on horrible people.
You make that decision.
Well, I don't want to say that, but it's not only land strikes on Venezuela. It's land strikes on horrible people.
So, I know, is he trying to disassociate? It's not like we're attacking the country. We're attacking horrible people smuggling drugs into our country. But then he said, like, it's not Venezuela. It implied, like, what, are you going to start bombing Colombia or something?
It doesn't necessarily have to be in Venezuela. It's people that are bringing in drugs to our country are targets. It doesn't necessarily have to be in Venezuela. It's people.
So everyone around us is probably looking at this like any other country in the region, just like, are you gonna start bombing us now? Can you tell us how this free economic zone will work in the Donbass, Trump? I don't want to do that now. It's a very complex situation. Okay, so now they're trying to get to making the Donbass some demilitarized zone. Again, that's bad for Ukraine because apparently the point of that chunk of the Donbass that they still hold is that it can be more easily fortified. Now, does this mean like it's going to be like some nebulous autonomous zone that Russia and Ukraine both claim ownership of, but is like administered by a third party somehow? Like they're trying, Russia's sticking point is the Donbass. They want control of it without a fight. They want Ukraine to give up that last bit of territory. Hiccups, excuse me. And now Trump's trying to float this idea of a free economic zone, but who rules it? Who's running the schools? Is there Ukrainian language enforced upon, enforced in this territory? Is there Russian language, or is Russian offered as well? There were new Epstein photos released today showing you, Bill Clinton, and Steve Bannon. What's your reaction? I haven't seen them, but everybody knew this man. He has photos with everybody. That's no big deal. I saw some of the photos, just him hanging out with perhaps underage girls. Who knows? You don't have the damning evidence that those women are claiming that Trump sexually harassed them, or sexually assaulted or raped them. We just have photos of him hanging out with girls. Now, maybe you could judge Trump's character for you didn't know what was going on here. You may not have participated. Did you ever think to tell the police about what you're seeing here? Former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak also appears in the photos released by House Oversight Democrats. This is not the Israeli former Prime Minister, not of the party of what's-his-face, Netanyahu. Alright, so no strikes as of yet. Who the fuck are you? What's this? Gestures to make more elegant and feminine. Oh. I've seen this before somewhere, and then it got posted to Twitter, and now people are making fun of it. Because, I don't know. I prefer this. Serving the cup. What does this even mean? This serving the cup serves me. You don't move yourself to the cup. That's it. Very elegant. Is that like supposed to be a special block? Oh, nice dodge. Man, I'd like to do some of that. Alright, let me DM that to myself. Really? Oh, God. Nope. Damn it, you saw my DMs. So, leave me, featuring Arissa. Snippa, what the fuck? Snippa, clippa, jail. What the fuck is this shit?
You clipped our wings? How could you? Guys, this has been public knowledge, okay? It's too late. It's too late for you guys to act all surprised. You clipped our wings, you've been known. You've been known that this is a thing. I can't help it if you missed it, okay? That's not my fault. That's part of the rules. If you're my bird living in my house and you are my jailbird, I can't let you fly away. So yeah, clippa. We have a symbiotic relationship.
Man, what is with the Hololive girls being super brutal to her fans? Like, what's her face, Rora? Some infamous clip where, well, let me see if I can find in my, I have to scroll so far back, oh my god. God help me. Oh, is that it? Did I not save it here? Where is it? What the heck? This can't be right. There must be some tweets that got deleted. What the fuck? Oh no, I lost it. But there's some infinite clip where like a Chatini is flying with its tail and then Roar just replies with a pair of scissors. And it's implied like she nuked its nuts. Or castrated the Chatini. Where the fuck was that clip? Oh, Raura is going under fucking surgery, apparently. God damn it, where's the Well, I found the tweet. Wrong account. Alright, hold up. I'm gonna do it like this. Stand by. Oh, look, it's Caleb Hammer, the guy who keeps on auditing, like, Disney adults and showing how financially, here it is. We Butalini, but flying companion. We are going back to the basics, Chatini, and then she just tweets that. Why she gotta be so mean to Chatini like that? Hold up, where's the quotes? I swear somebody. Oh yeah. Somebody did this with far more depressing music in the background. Nope, that's it. Where did it go then? Somebody did an edit with this, with very sad music, but, oh god, that's brutal. So it's Raora and Narissa. This is why I don't call as much as I like Narissa, I don't call myself a jailbird. Like, no, I'm not buying a subscription, I'm not that. You're not gonna control me, okay? You're not clipping my wings, you're not clipping anything off me. If you're not, I'm biting your fucking hand off, bitch. Alright. Snippa snippa. Let's see. Oh, here it is. Yeah, I get nice zoomed in on it. Yeah, so she cut. Wait, does it? Did she cut the tails or? No, the tail's still there. Let me just go back and finish this fucking clip from Narissa.
You clipped our wing. Bird, I can't let you fly away, so yeah, clippa. We have a symbiotic relationship now. You need me to survive because I've clipped your wings. But you also wouldn't survive if I let you outside. The Hawks would have you within the hour. You're much safer staying in here with me, jailbirds. Wouldn't you be happier just staying in here with me?
Oh god, stilettos.
Why would you want to go anywhere else? You can be in here with me?
Oh, one, I got a fucking job. I don't know, I want to go to the gun range one day. I want to go to an anime convention. I'm going to Holiday Matsuri. Maybe I just need to fuck off to Montana and Glacier National Park.
So why? Why would you want to go somewhere else? Are you trying to get away from me?
There's double fucking captions
I don't like
here.
that. You're not supposed to go anywhere. Especially when I let you stay here. It's so thoughtful of me, isn't it? It's very mindful and very demure of me. But you want to go outside, you want to be able to fly away. Please stop doing things that hurt my feelings. I don't appreciate it. Do you want to be like this jailbird here, jailbirds?
Oh god.
Is that what you want? You want this to be you? Do you want to be like this jailbird? Do you realize how he is flattened? He's like a little pancake. He's not round anymore. He's flattened. Is this what you want to be like? Yeah, will you be good? Okay, honey, I'll stay forever.
No, I will not be good. Fuck you.
But this is what happened to the jailbird who tried to run away. So you better think it through.
Quick, she's sick. Take her down while she's weak. Hold up, I'm responding to somebody DM on Instagram. I'll move on to playing the game. I realized I said Far Cry. I was thinking either like Far Cry 3 or Far Cry 4, but then I realized I have Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon. So, oh, I should have put in like a fucking retro tag on Twitch. Let's see here. Retro. It's not a retro game in and of itself, but it's got retro 1980s aesthetics. Then again, at this point, the early 2000s, the aughts and early 2010s are now being like considered like, you know, retro at this point. Alright, I need to go to get some water, so well, actually, let me do the full thing here. tweet myself out. Change the fucking account first. You can continue to stare at Narissa. No, go to my profile, find my live stream, and tweet it out. Tweet it out. Just what's that song? Bleed it out. Launching, not Resident Evil. Far Cry Blood Dragon imminently. I felt the yearning for some sort of shooter open world game and decided this would hit the spot. Come and join me in the retro neon 1980s aesthetics of Blood Dragon. Alright, now to spell check. It's Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon, but whatever. Alright, close that. Bye, Narissa. What am I doing here? Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon with an Omega symbol. Alright, game capture's on. Turn off the video. After any full screen application. Alright, let's see if this is running, and then I'll go get some water if I see it's functioning. Also, shrink myself down. It's taking its time. Alright, let me cancel and try this again. It says it's running. Oh man. Oh, it's coming out. Oh, it's bringing up Ubisoft Connect, preparing to launch your game. Rex Colt. King Horse. What is the etymology of the word colt? Oh my god, my computer is like breathing it up a storm right now. Oh, what the fuck? It completely failed. God, how much of a problem is this going to be? I'm looking at Steam right now. Is it going to be incredibly difficult? Is it going to blow up in my face? Oh, now I've got Ubisoft Connect downloaded on my fucking stream. Protect your account. What the fuck? Skip. All right, Ubisoft Connect is running through. I'm still logged in. We got Avatar from the Ashes running here. Oh yeah, that's right. They made an Avatar Far Cry crossover game. Colts refers to a young male horse, so king of the young horses. No, I do not want it. Come on, have the game run. So difficult. All right, I'm seeing a title screen. All right, fuck, close that down. All right, let me close this again. Let me try going to Ubisoft Connect first. Oh, great. All right, hold up. Now I need to fucking log in. And I don't even have the, I probably don't have save password. I don't think I've touched this since in years. I have an account. Oh wait, I have a password. Apparently. Oh, that worked. All right, no need to reset everything. All right, go to my library. It's trying to run. Preparing to launch your game. And then it opens up Ubisoft. There, it keeps on going, and then it keeps on failing for some reason. Yeah. This is so frustrating. Does this work with Far Cry 3? Am I gonna have to change this around? Wait, I realize I have technology. Alright, I'm asking Grok for like fucking... Oh god damn it. Don't tell me I have to restart my computer, because that's going to be a pain in the ass. I have to diagnose this issue live. Oh, I'm out of electrolyte water. At least this bottle. Here's cannot connect pops up for the handshake, but the game hangs or closes without processing. Here's a step-by-step. Restart everything, ensure proper logon. Close Ubisoft Connect completely. Task Manager for you. So you relaunch Ubisoft Connect. Launch your game directly from use. Alright, let me go to Task Manager to make sure everything's fucking closed. Oh. It's hidden behind OBS, ain't it? Alright. Still streaming. I just don't want to have to restart my computer. After the splash, launch the game directly from Ubisoft Connect library. Yeah. I gotta break out the password again. Am I gonna get something? Nope, that didn't work. Fixes missing corrupted file. All right, let's go to Steam. Oh no, this thing told me to restart my PC. Fuck. I really want to play this fucking game. All right, let me see if something else happens. Let me go to Steam, verify. Successfully validated. I think honestly I just need to restart the computer, so I might have to break the stream. Alright, hold up. I'm gonna try doing this running administrative trick. What the fuck? Why is this over here? No, it just... Damn it. It keeps on loading back to the Ubisoft Connect. Alright. I am going to restart my computer to see if that helps. I gotta look into like how much it would take to have like a secondary server to host this stream. Maybe I'll look into that while I get a glass of water and wait for this restart to happen. So, sending goodbye for now. Then I'll have to do some